Today we have a very interesting topic to discuss, especially created for the very renowned Monarch of Oz. He's looking to expand his region's borders internationally, so our reporters actually traveled to Spain and spent a whole year researching the macroeconomic relations of the country. Tonight we'll be looking at many important aspects of the country, covering a wide range of topics to give you a complete overview of the economic situation in Spain. We've done our research about the country as a whole, and this presentation is a summation of that information. Should the land of Oz purchase Spain to expand? The answer and more coming up.
Welcome to the Spanish Update. I'm Samantha.
And I'm Julia.
First, we'll go to Nicola and Julie, and they'll give us a quick look into the past for a brief summary of the political and economic history of Spain.
Thanks, Samantha. As we all know, Spain is both a member of the European Union and the World Trade Organization, and joined on January 1st, 1986 and January 1st, 1995, respectively. Spain is also a member of the European Economic Community and the European Coal and Steel Community, both of which worked to remove internal tariffs. The average tariff level for manufacturers was around 31% of the cost of the item.
Spain has been a force to be reckoned with since they joined the European Union in 1986, helping to get the EU to use a single currency, which is, to this day, the euro. This was all in the works long before the euro began circulation in 2002. After a recession around the time that Spain joined the World Trade Organization, the country began recovering. Employment grew and the citizens of Spain remained confident in the job market. Industry continued to expand up until 2008, when an economic crisis hit, of which the effects are still being felt today. Now, here's Julia with an update on the GDP.
Thanks, Julie. GDP has increased significantly since 2004, but it's on the decline now, after a long period of growth. This is due to the economic crisis that's going on right now, as mentioned by Julie. GDP per capita, on the other hand, suffered a drastic hit during the first year of that crisis, and it's been declining since. Back in the newsroom, Samantha has information on unemployment, and later Nicola has an update on inflation. But here is a quick overview of Spain's current economic situation first.
Spain's economy grew for a second straight quarter in the final 3 months of last year, amid signs of a recovery in domestic demand, and as exports increased, GDP was up 0.3% from the previous quarter. Compared with the same period a year earlier, the economy did shrink by 0.1%, and that was an improvement on the 1.1% contraction of the previous quarter. Economy Minister Luis de Guindos welcomed what he called positive elements, but stressed there's still much to do. He said the path ahead is full of obstacles, which above all include an unemployment rate at 26%.
While the unemployment rate in Spain is definitely lower than it was in January of last year, the trend is still increasing upward as shown by the black line on this graph. As we can see, there was a drastic increase in the unemployment rate from the beginning of 2011, and this level is significantly higher than the level in 2002, which was at 11.3%. The unemployment rate now, which is just shy of 26%, as we just heard, is even higher than the rate in 1996, where unemployment was about 24%.
Inflation, on the other hand, has been steadily dropping since mid-2012, but has started to rise up again in early 2014. We have to question whether or not this upward trend will continue, or if this small increase will only lead to an even lower drop. We have two field reporters over in Spain today, Matt and Al Goodman. First on the phone, we'll hear from Matt about trade, while a little later, Al will give us a rundown on the current status of the economic crisis that's still in effect today.
Thanks, Nicola. Spain trades with many countries around the world, but of course, Europe is the continent that Spain exports to most, making up just over 70% of the exports as of 2011. The 5 biggest countries within Europe that Spain exports to are France, Germany, Portugal, Italy, and the UK. Similarly, imports come mostly from Europe. However, the amount that Europe imports is much less, at 58.74%. Spain imports goods from Asia far more than it exports goods to Asia as well. Spain's 3 main exports are transportation, machines, and chemical products, while the 3 main imports are mineral products, machines, and chemical products.
Spain is also a top exporter for iron blocks and citrus fruits. This makes sense when applying the Heckscher-Ohlin model because Spain's abundant natural resources include coal, lignite, iron ore, and arable land. Since Spain is endowed with these factors, they will logically export goods that abundantly use them. Over to you, Nicola.
Thanks, Julie. Here's a more detailed list of those exports and imports of Spain. As you can see, the trade products are all relatively close in terms of what types of things are being exported from Spain and those that are being imported.
Spain is a part of the European Union, which is a provider for 4 preferential trading agreements. The longest standing agreement was established in July of 1971 and is a GSP, a Generalized System of Preferences. The other 3 PTAs that Spain is indirectly a part of through the EU are trade preferences for the countries of the Western Balkans, the Republic of Moldova, and Pakistan. Now we hear from Al with an update on the economic crisis, direct from Spain.
This is Calle Serrano, a street that has some of the fanciest fashion shops in Madrid, and it's also right where our CNN bureau is. And this day we saw something we've never seen before. This man, who's jobless, handing out his CV or resume, and he's begging for money.
I am unemployed and not collecting benefits. This is a list of my jobs.
Jose Manuel Mendez is 37 years old. His state benefits have run out.
I have had my own store, worked in other stores, been a store manager, worked in warehouses, in telephone sales, in construction. I'm giving out my CV for free. Whoever wants to take it, I have more. There are people who take it. My wife is also unemployed and not collecting benefits, and she's ill and can't work.
And they are clinging on to their basic accommodation. He's a Spaniard born in Argentina, and his family is there, far away. He fled Argentina's economic crisis a decade ago, and now is caught in Spain's, with 27% unemployment.
Until I find work, I have to keep begging. Since I've been doing this, I haven't gone hungry. The Red Cross used to give me a little food, maybe once a month.
He insists he's optimistic.
You have to keep trying.
Spain's crisis is so deep now that no matter where you go, it's hard to miss it. Al Goodman, CNN, Madrid.
Thanks, Al. Now, in terms of economic sectors, Spain is now dominating in services, which accounts for 60 to 65% of all employment and GDP in Spain. One particularly important service is tourism. Spain is the second largest destination after France. Spain has approximately 50 million tourists per year, so if you're planning on visiting us, you won't be alone. Spain's second most important sector is the industrial and manufacturing sector, accounting for 20% of GDP and employment. The agricultural sector, which used to be the main sector, is now accounting for only 3% of the country's GDP and 6.5% of employment. However, since Spain is surrounded by the Atlantic Ocean and the Mediterranean Sea, fishing remains a major industry.
When Spain joined the EU, the economic structure of the country dramatically changed. Wealth was created, and Spain was no longer seen as a country that was conservative and rural, but rather a modernized democracy. In terms of the country's macroeconomic growth, their expansion and modernization has drastically increased. Spain now has the stability that it needs to pull itself out of its financial crisis and to further development.
Spain shows increasing imports and relatively less increasing exports, that is, until the 2008 economic crisis. Spain has long shown to be a net importer, suggesting that they do not have comparative advantage in many industries. During the last 3 years of the graph, which is 2009 to 2011, Spain's exports grew closer to their imports, conveying that Spain was experiencing increased comparative advantages. Spain has a revealed comparative advantage in transport equipment. Correspondingly, as seen in other graphs, Spain's top export is in the transportation industry. This is in agreement with the theory of comparative advantage, which says that a country will export goods in which it has the comparative advantage in producing. Now here's Matt with an update on FDI.
The FDI is helping Spain recover from a 5-year recession. Gross FDI has increased 8.8% since 2013 to 15.8 billion euros. FDI has been important in the Spanish economy, especially since the 1959 Stabilization Plan, which ended autarky in Spain and allowed Spain to open up the economy. Spain is a net exporter of FDI, but the value which it has exported has decreased dramatically in the first few months of 2014, as you can see from the graph. There has been a steady increase in the amount exported with FDI since mid-2013, and the last time that this value dropped into negative territory was in the middle of 2012.
From everyone on the team, thank you for joining us on the Spanish Update.